Hello, I'm Malcolm McCallum, and I'm here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Oklahoma. Some things going on here. I think maybe a good way to lead into this is tell you a little story. Okay, and there was this homeless shelter, and the homeless shelter, like all homeless shelters, they're there to try to help people out that are down in their luck. Maybe they've lost their job, and usually they've lost a lot more than that, often their homes. Some of them have even lost their families in association with this. And so they provided, some modest meals and maybe some clothing, place to receive mail so that if they were trying to find a job, which of course they are, and they can take a shower if they have an interview. And they discovered that the number of people they were helping was growing. Basically, so many cuts to the government programs that they were starting to have a lot of people show up. And so what they did is they said, we have this wealthy man. He's rather old, but here in town, he's made a lot of money. He's a multimillionaire at least. He might be a billionaire. Okay, and let's approach him and see if maybe he could help us. Maybe he could help us with some money, or maybe he could even help us with getting a group of people together to help get these people helped out. So one of the board members who had some kind of connection with him was able to make a meeting at his office. So he went to the millionaire's office and he met with him, and he told him their situation. And as he closed talking to him and asked if there was any ideas that he had that might help out, the millionaire looked back at him. He's very calm, not any emotion or anything, not like mad. He just looked back at him and said, my brother, he lost his eyesight in Iraq, so he's a veteran and he's disabled. He's got PTSD and 4 kids, and on top of it, his wife. She's got a terminal illness, and I don't want to go into what it is, but bottom line, she's got a terminal illness, and then they're about ready, because of all this misfortune at one time, then they're about ready to lose their house and going to get evicted this week. And of course, right away, the board member looks back at him and says, I'm sorry, I had no idea. This is a very bad time. I shouldn't even be here today. And before he even finishes, this super rich guy, he looks back and he says, and then there's my mother. My mom, she's restricted to a wheelchair. She needs a heart transplant. She has several other health problems. I don't know how long she's going to be alive, but she's stuck down at the state home right now, state-run facility. And so, of course, the board member's feeling actually kind of bad that he even came here at this point. And he says, this isn't the right time. And I think and before he can even finish talking, he says, as he's saying this, he says, I didn't realize you had all these problems going on right at this moment. And of course, the billionaire cuts him right off and says, yeah, my family, it has a lot of problems, a lot of health issues, a lot of financial issues, often linked. And, if I didn't help them, what makes you think I'm going to help you? That's exactly what the super rich are saying when they say they want a tax cut. That's it. These are people who can afford anything, can afford to do anything, can buy off almost anybody, and have absolutely no need for any services that anyone of a middle class or lower class stature would need. It's Potter on steroids. Remember Potter? Not Harry Potter. I'm talking about Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. You know, that Capra movie, it's top 100 film. You know, Zuzu's Petals. Clarence, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Maybe you haven't seen it. Very, very popular Christmas movie. And you see, Potter, the everyday people were losing their jobs, they were losing their houses. And the Bailey Building and Loan, which Jimmy Stewart played a part, was busy trying to help them stay afloat. Now, maybe they couldn't afford to pay their payments. They'd let them ride for a little bit. Local banks, local lenders will do that kind of thing for you. They'll help you out. Small businesses. That's what the Bailey Building and Loan was, a small business. It's the foundation of American business. Now, small businesses eventually become big businesses, but their character changes as they become corporations and mega corporations. And the human element gets removed. So Potter was busy just buying up everyone's houses. He owned the bank, and he'd just buy up their houses and throw the people out, resell them, make a nice handy profit, shove that profit into his investments, stock market, whatever, what have you. And then if you couldn't find it, you could always go live in his Potter's Field, which was the biggest slum in the world. Yeah, Potter was basically a slumlord. Okay? We have politicians, current politicians, who have been slumlords. When billionaires say they don't want to pay taxes, this is Potter on steroids, okay? The super rich, they want us paying the taxes. And at one time, the majority of wealth was in the lower 50% of earners. And so, you could cut taxes on the rich and experience an improvement in the economy. But today, 90% of that wealth is in the upper 1%, and probably now, actually, the upper 0.5%. Meanwhile, the rest of us are barely skirting by. But these people don't care. You're just a number on a sheet. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about really anything except, a little more money to shove back into their investments. Buy off a politician, fund a campaign, perfect bribe. Or looking at the Republican candidates for governor that have announced so far, just run themselves. 100 millionaires, owners of banks. It's cheaper to just run yourself than to fund another person's campaign. Of course, you got to get up there and say things, but in a place where people just say Republican and vote, you don't even have to try. Nobody got to be super wealthy by being generous. Now, Carnegie, of course, in his later years, sold off his steel mills to J.P. Morgan. And with the huge amount of money he made, he actually had decided to do stuff around the country. And he put libraries all over the place. Perry, Oklahoma has a Carnegie Library, I'm pretty sure. And there's others. I've seen that one, okay? You don't get that rich because eventually, when you've got all your needs covered and you don't even know what to do with your money, maybe you're not even a billionaire yet. You might not even be a millionaire yet, but you're driving down the street and you see someone out there and you go, I could help that person out. And you do. Because you care about other people. They don't. If anything, they call the police and say, hey, we've got someone sitting on the street, we need to get them out because they're an eyesore. And then they send them to the county prison where they can, use a hole in the floor. I'm not joking about that. Over 70% of the richest families in America vote Republican. And about 60% vote exclusively Republican. The in between, that little balance between 60 and 70%, that 10%, they actually, they vote Democrat when it's convenient. Maybe they're upset with a particular Republican candidate who didn't maybe do something they wanted. But otherwise, they're voting Republican. Why do you suppose they do that? Because Republicans cater to the super rich. They don't cater to everyday people. They don't cater to middle class. They don't cater to people who are poor. They don't cater to people who need help. They cater to people who are going to fund their campaigns. Period. And that's the super rich. It's a perfect bribe. Feed the rich, starve the poor. And in fact, I talked to a rather wealthy Oklahoman not too long ago, a couple of years ago, who in my presence made the comment, keep them starving, that way they can't leave. In regard to his employees that had rather poor jobs, low paying jobs is what I mean. That way he didn't have to worry about finding another one after he trained them. God forbid we actually try to provide them with some improvements. Help them out a little bit. Care about someone other than yourself. This is business as usual. Okay? I'm tired of business as usual. I'm sick and tired of it. When the last Democratic governor left Oklahoma in 2011, and then the Republicans have had control of the state ever since. Ever since. Everybody here should probably know that anyway. And that's 15 years. It's a long time. 15 years. You can do a lot of good and a lot of bad in 15 years. There's a lot of people that are going to be driving soon, and they weren't even born 15 years ago. Okay? In 15 years, they've essentially run Oklahoma into the ground. Now, you've been working, slaving away, trying to get by, and may not have noticed how some things have actually gone down so far. May not have reference points. So I want to let you see just what they've done. In 15 years, they've run Oklahoma down a road to poverty and collapse. They cater to the super rich. I've already said that. And the super rich, they don't need anything. Okay? You remember that. They have wealth beyond what I can imagine. Okay? They don't need help. They don't want help either, but they don't need help. And they don't care whether others get help. They don't even care if others are paying their taxes. That's really what they want. Oklahoma's budget has been effectively flat for 15 years. In fact, they passed a law that requires a supermajority in order for taxes to be raised. But in that time, you might say, well, you still got $20-some billion. You know what? There's been inflation, and that's like 75% of what they had back then now. And it doesn't matter to these people because they got enough wealth. They don't care if the state's doing a good job or a bad job. They care if they got to pay, if they're giving away their money. and I get it. When it's your money. Yeah. But this is also our country, and if you're, or our state. And if you're here and you have privilege from getting really lucky or really successful, you should want to make it a better place instead of running it into the ground. The rich don't need help. Okay? But people making $11,000 shouldn't be paying taxes, in my opinion. They can't even pay for their lunch. They're paying their unfair share, though. So that 25% whack job, what does that bring to Oklahoma? Well, it closes hospitals. People who are in the periphery, the rural areas of Oklahoma, know that hospitals are closing or slated to close. Daycare, all kinds of things like that disappear. Schools move to 4-day work weeks. What kind of idiot thinks that you can learn as much in 4 days as in 5 just because it's the same number of hours? It's ludicrous. Okay? It's just a lie. It's not a solution to anything. It's a lie. It doesn't work that way. Okay? This is all just to skimp, all to skimp, just to skimp. Cheapness, being cheap. I'm not saying that the average person is cheap. I'm saying they're cheap. They're cheap. And it's all to skimp so that a bunch of cheap, over-bloated money grubbers can invest another dime in their investment account. It isn't coming back to you. It isn't trickling down. Period. You know what happened in the rest of the United States during the same period? Each year, since that, for the last 15 years, there's been 3.3% increase in revenue in the state. And that's not due to tax increases. That's because population growth, healthier businesses, because of having healthier infrastructure and support systems in place, and better personal incomes as a result, which led to more tax revenue. And that is a cyclic phenomenon. The better you make it. This is why, this is why we had an opportunity to get Tesla here. Did you know that? Texas got them. Now, Texas does have more money than Oklahoma. But the size of a state and an amount of money it has is not the end all to getting companies to come. We could have had Rivian too. And that didn't work out either. They went to Illinois. And I know where Rivian went because, I had friends who worked at Diamond Star, which is, I believe, the exact factory that Rivian's using there in central Illinois. There's infrastructure, there's roads, they can move the stuff around. They're near a highway that's well supported. Meanwhile, our financial magicians that are running our state, executive branch, they got Canoe. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Canoe. I actually knew about Canoe because I back years ago I took this marketing class and learned a little bit about the stock market. I don't have enough money to invest anything. I play with it and I lose more. I probably lost more than I've got, and certainly it's enough to pay for my house payment if I were to lose my job for a short period, and then it'd all be gone. But Canoe, I saw it there because I at the time I thought, hey, it'd be cool to invest in some of these up and coming EVs that maybe become the next Tesla, And so I looked at Canoe, and my gosh, the financials were horrendous. I don't have a degree in business. I have a degree in environmental science, which is a management type degree. It allows you to communicate between everyday people and people who are lawyers and scientists and understand all these different fields. A lot of people think it's just a conservation degree. That's not what it is. Okay? And Canoo had financial statements that looked horrendous. Its stock was under $5 a share. And that wasn't because it split. Okay? This thing was on the verge of bankruptcy. Bad. So our magician in the governor's house said, hey, I'm going to bring that into here. As if we haven't had enough failures in the last 15 years of Republican leadership. So they put it in here. It went bankrupt. And Oklahoma lost all the investment. Good job. This was all just a scam. They picked that company because they knew it was going to fail, so that all the people in Oklahoma would go, well, the EV is terrible. My wife drives a Chevy Bolt. It's a wonderful car. It's not something I'm going to drive across the country in. It's very small. But I can drive to Tulsa and back. I can drive around Oklahoma. And we do. And it's, it's expensive. But it costs me less to run it than it would to run a car with gas, because effectively I got the car for free if you consider that I don't pay gas. I do have to pay a road tax, which is very reasonable, and I don't mind. An EV road tax, I think it's like $200 or $300 a year. So the bottom line is they're catering to the rich. Okay? They're catering to, people who own oil or whatever it is. And when 90% of the wealth is in the top 1%, you can't keep up with inflation by taxing the poor. There was a time when Reagan came into office in the 1980s. He did a lot of cuts and so forth, and you can argue what he shouldn't have done if he went too far or whatever. But the bottom line is that the economy did seem to improve, and of course the deficit went up. But you can argue that the economy did improve, but a large reason for that was that most of the wealth was not in the upper half; it was in the lower half of earners. And so when he's doing those things, if he's taxing the lower half and he cuts taxes on the wealthy, of course it has virtually very little effect on the income for the country. Today, 90%'s in the top. Only 3% of the revenue brought in by the United States actually comes from people in the lower 50%. And that's not because they're not paying taxes. It's because that's how wealthy the top half are. Okay? But in Oklahoma, we don't do it that way. You can't catch fish in an empty barrel. Okay? If you're going to tax, you have to tax where the money is. You can do it in a nice way. You don't have to gouge people. But you do have to be reasonable. And people who are very well off and aren't going to in the least bit feel it should certainly should understand. And they should want to help out. They should want to chip in. Why did Robin Hood steal from the rich? The poor didn't have anything. Right now, the middle class doesn't have anything. If you're not making a living wage, why are you paying? Why are we making them pay taxes? Why is someone making $11,700 paying any taxes at all? That's ridiculous. It's not contributing to the state's income. But it is contributing to them having a problem eating. They don't have anything for everyday people. They really don't. They don't have any solutions. They don't have any ideas. They've made no progress in 15 years. And I think we can do better than that. Okay? Really. In Oklahoma, we should be able to do better than that. It really is time to start thinking about change here. With 2026 coming up, start thinking about change. Speaking of the road to poverty, I mentioned earlier, 15 years ago, Oklahoma had the 14th best roads in the country. I bet you've forgotten that. 14th best. Now, the highest rating I could find was 39th. And many rankings are well below that. Way into the bottom 10. Now, I know if you drive, this doesn't surprise you. But the super rich don't need roads. Just rent a helicopter. Seriously. They'll have someone to fly them to where they want to go, land in the front lawn. They can bypass all of the traffic, all of the potholes that we deal with. It doesn't matter to them. They don't need it. They don't need roads. You do. Businesses do. If you want to get jobs here, you need infrastructure. Okay? You need infrastructure. You got to be able to attract the people. You have to be able to attract the businesses. I'm telling you, Illinois got Rivian because they already had infrastructure. They had well-to-do roads in that area. They didn't have to worry about looking at a house and finding out it's 5 miles down a dirt road that's been washed out for, 6 months. This is how you get more jobs. You make it a place where businesses want to go. And that isn't just about cutting taxes. And a lot of times it doesn't even matter that taxes are low. New York has no problem bringing in jobs and bringing in businesses. And you hear all the stories about, people are leaving New York or they're leaving. Yeah, people are going in, people are leaving. They don't have a problem. If they did, New York would no longer be a center for commerce, and it is. Even our president, his place is stationed in New York. But 15 years of letting the roads decay and falling from number 14 all the way down into the bottom 10, that's not helping. It's not helping. What have they done? What have Republicans done? 15 years of Republican control, the roads went to hell. These are one-trick ponies. If you've got a hammer and that's the only tool you have, it's the answer for every problem. Republicans think that the only solution to anything is cutting taxes on the rich, lowering corporate taxes, similar type of things. It's not the way it works. Economic law demonstrates it's not the way it works. But it works well for the super rich. Okay? Because they can pack all that extra money, even if it's a small amount, they don't care. They see an accounting line, that's all they're looking at. Put it into more stocks. Make me more money. I don't know why. I don't know what to do with it. But hey, I got more money. Hey, I'm the richest guy in the world. Who cares? It's like when they used to talk about nuclear weapons and they were arguing who had the most nuclear weapons, like it mattered. Both of them could blow up the earth 10 times over or more. Doesn't matter. Either one of you launch them off, you're all dead. Same thing with billions and billions of dollars. At some point, it just doesn't matter. Okay? I think that we can do better than one solution for all problems. The answer for every math problem isn't 2. And the answer for every problem in Oklahoma is not cut taxes on the rich or don't raise taxes on the rich. In 15 years, back, just to give you a little bit of perspective on this, Oklahoma has 4.1 million residents, or somewhere in that ballpark anyway. And it has a GDP about the same as Hungary. Hungary in Europe, it's part of the EU. And for those of you who don't know much about Hungary, and it's not a surprise, it's not a country you think Europe, you don't think Hungary usually. You might be hungry, but you're not thinking of Hungary, okay? Hungary ranks as the number 30th best education in the world and the 30th best health care in the world. They have twice as many people as we have in Oklahoma. And yet, we aren't anywhere close to there. Yeah, Republicans have taken a state with the GDP of Hungary and turned it and provided us with an adult literacy rate of Guatemala. This doesn't take a lot of intelligence to figure out what's going on. Okay? I mean, what have they done about education? In 15 years, nothing. Really nothing. Not a damn thing. We've got 4-day work weeks for some schools because they can't afford to keep the doors open 5 days. We have schools that the roofs are coming off the buildings are falling down, they're ready to be condemned, and they cannot fix them. Teachers are leaving the state because they'll make more money doing the same job, and you can say, oh, well, you shouldn't leave for the money. You know, just because you're a teacher doesn't mean that it's not a job. And at the end of the day, every single person on this planet worries about themselves, their family, before they worry about their community. If the other two things are moderately secure, they start to think about the other things. And if I'm a teacher in a grade school and I'm told that if I go to Texas, they're going to pay me 20% more, I'm leaving. And so are you. Let's not pretend that's not the case. Because in Texas they'll do the exact same help for the exact same kinds of kids, and those kids will make will do even better because they'll have resources, so it'll be more rewarding. I mean, what have they done? Okay. Our Ryan wanted to bring Bibles into the classroom and buy a bunch of Bibles. And I guess, I can see where that could be a good... it has merit. I mean, it's definitely challenging reading, and reading comprehension when you're reading it is it's very good for that. And of course, there are some good moral principles in the Bible. I'm not in any way lambasting the Bible or religion or anything of that sort. I think that they're important. But I do find it odd that you would spend money on something if you've already got Chromebooks in most of the classrooms, and we do, or some type of computers, and the students can get on the internet, and basically every version of the Bible that exists is on there, along with the Quran and a bunch of Jewish, the Jewish documents. When you have all that on there for free, you can even switch it between languages if English isn't your first language, or you can even switch the Old Testament back to Aramaic. You can switch the New Testament to Greek, in which it was a lot of the New Testament was originally written in and then translated into Latin. So, it doesn't make any sense to me. But then again, we're talking about someone who spent $600,000 so that he could give raises to all of his staff who did such a great job of improving the situation in education in our state. I'm sorry. We can do better than this. We aren't Guatemala. We shouldn't have literacy rates at the level of a third world country. Come on. There's no excuse for this. Except that a bunch of the upper echelon of earners are too cheap to support the place they live and make it a better place. In 15 years of Republican leadership, back in 2011, Oklahoma was the 49th for healthcare, and now it's 28th. And I bet you're going to say, hey, look at this. There's something that improved. It did improve, but it didn't improve for the reasons you might think. All that happened was the Republican leadership decided, hey, we'll go ahead and take the Affordable Health Care Act money from the federal government. That's it. That money raised Oklahoma's health care from 49 to 28. If that hadn't been available, they had no ideas They had no solutions because, super rich. They can have their own doctor that follows them around. Trump does. I don't. I have a doctor, but, he doesn't follow me around. They have no solutions. They have no ideas for regular people, and if it weren't for the Affordable Health Care Act, there would have been no progress on this. I guarantee you. I think we can do better than that. It's time for a change. In 15 years, when the Democrats had full control of Congress, and they had the governor's seat, Oklahoma was number 40 for high infant mortality in the United States. Now they're number 45. So they've fallen 5 spaces. What have they done about it? Nothing, because they've been busy slashing the budget or not raising it so that all the hospitals close. Of course we're going to be in the bottom. You ever tried to carry an infant that's sick across the state to get to a specialist? This isn't like some kind of super difficult thing to figure out here. They don't care if your baby dies. They don't. Their baby has a living nanny who can watch its every breath, and they can have the living doctor come up and take care of it if it gets sick. And under the slim chance that all of this proactive care doesn't prevent it from getting a major illness, well, then they can just put it in their private jet and bring it to the world expert, while the rest of us wait in line at the clinic and hope that we haven't used up our eligibility for insurance. When you're an everyday person, someone who's poor, middle class, these people have no solutions for you. They have no ideas. They don't care. And they sure don't make any progress. We've been going backwards by just circling the drain. And you're just sitting there hoping by some fortunate luck you don't end up in the sewer. I think we can do better than this. It's time for a change, don't you think? In 15 years, Oklahoma has the eighth worst life expectancy in the USA. 42 states have a better life expectancy, live longer. That's right. Behind Venezuela, Guatemala, and Iraq. Now, some of you people were in Iraq, and you know that is not exactly a wonderful place to live. And yet, we're right behind them. Now, don't you think we can do better than Iraq? The Republicans can't. And we can base that off of the fact they haven't in 15 years. But you might say, well, why would they want you to die early? Well, it's all accounting. It's basic running the state as a business, right? Think about it. If you die as soon as your useful life as a worker is done, Medicare, no need to spend that money. Medicaid, no need to spend that money. Social Security, no need to spend that money. Oh, did I give you a pension? You're dead? Well, I'll just keep it. And believe me, I don't know about everyone else's pensions. I know some of them are refundable to the family, but my father sure as hell wasn't. Most of his investment in his pension went back to GE and body coat. That's why for everyday people who actually have to worry about things like this, Republicans are not helping you. They don't have ideas. They don't have solutions. I'm telling you, we can do better than this. We really need to start thinking about who we vote for, because it's time for a change. What have they done? I mean, when the Democrats had full control of the Oklahoma government, We had the 13th best unemployment rate in the state. In the country, not in the state. That makes no sense. In the country. Now we're the 13th worst. Yeah. Good job. Way to provide jobs. We went from the 13th best to the 13th best is damn good. 13th worst is okay. That's the best you can do? I mean, what in the world are they doing other than catering to people who don't need help? I think we can do better than that. I think we can do better than that. I think it's time for a change around here. Republicans are turning this into a third world country. Venezuela, Guatemala. Think about it. Oklahomans are among the least likely in the United States to have a rainy day fund. 70-some% don't even have one. And never mind that, 40% don't make... Why don't they have a rainy day fund? It's very easy. They don't have enough money to have a rainy day fund. It's easy to tell people, oh, you can invest in money over here and for retirement, or you can put money in the bank, save this much each month. Look, if you don't make enough money to feed yourself, how are you going to have a rainy day fund? Oh, we'll give you a tax credit for investing in a 401k. Oh yeah, that's a real game. If I don't put anything in it, I don't get the tax credit. 40% don't make enough from a full-time job to afford a 2-room rental. What in the world is going on here? 20% can't afford a 1-room rental. 1 in 6 living in poverty. 1 in 3 doesn't make a living wage. I don't want to sound like the wrong way, but come on. And on top of this, we're ranked number 11 for the highest grocery prices in the country. Now I realize they just canceled taxes on groceries, the sales tax, and that's a good thing. That was a really good thing. That was a good idea. It's not exactly a new idea. It's been done in other states, like when I was in freaking grade school. But it's something, and it does help. It does help everyday people. I give them that. That does help other everyday people. I mean, if you're going shopping this weekend, the prices are getting pretty bad, and they're not going to get better. Okay, they're not going to get better with other things going on that are outside of Oklahoma's control. But I mean, should our prices be comparable to California? They are. In 2025, our grocery prices are comparable to California. I don't think this is acceptable. I don't think this is acceptable. There needs to be some change here. I mean, what have they done about it? They haven't done anything. They just let it get worse or stagnate. Okay? I know we can do better than this. I know. So, you'll be hearing from me some more between now and 2026. If you're still listening to me, if I didn't tick off half of the state. But it's time for a change in Oklahoma. If you're not sick and tired of this, you're going to be getting sick and tired of it pretty quick here. And I think we need to start thinking about changing some things here. Like not always voting for the same party just because they happen to say some things that you think happen to fit your moral beliefs. We've all got moral beliefs. Some of us voice them louder. I'm reminded of when I was a kid, and there was this man who owned a local, I won't name the store because I don't want to reveal his identity, but he owned this place, and on his license plates he had "I love Jesus" and bumper stickers and everything. And I'm not against that stuff. But a lot of times the people who shout the loudest about these things, it's all a charade. They don't care about it. If they did, they'd be doing something about people's problems. You know, it's the old Good Samaritan, golden rule. Doesn't mean you got to be a pushover or just throw money around like it's candy. But yeah, you know, there are people who need help. And when you're letting the state erode by 25%, you are not managing a budget. You are doing a crap job, period. So I'll be talking to you some more. And as I do, hopefully they won't be so negative. Have a nice day. As I said, I'm Malcolm McCallum.